Something is breaking down at the 2026 World Cup, and it is not the football. It is the trust. And once trust begins to collapse between a governing body and the billions of people who love the sport it controls, the cracks spread faster than any organization can contain them. What you are about to hear is not simply the story of one penalty decision in one game during the opening days of a tournament. It is the story of an institution so buried beneath the weight of its own controversies that even a routine technical failure becomes impossible to believe. Stay with us because by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why FIFA's credibility crisis has reached a point where official explanations are no longer enough, and why a missing line on a screen has come to symbolize something far larger and far more dangerous than anyone at FIFA headquarters wants to admit. Before we go any further, if this is the kind of deep, unflinching coverage you have been looking for, subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because what is coming in this video is unlike anything the mainstream commentary is willing to say out loud. Let us begin at the beginning. Switzerland versus Qatar. The opening chapter of a tournament FIFA has spent years marketing as the most spectacular World Cup in history. 48 teams, 3 nations hosting. An event so grand in scale that it was supposed to silence every critic, answer every question, and prove once and for all that football's governing body had learned from its mistakes. That was the promise. That was what FIFA told the world. And then, in the middle of that match, a moment unfolded that would ignite a firestorm. A Swiss player went down inside the penalty area. The referee pointed to the spot, and millions of people watching the replay at home immediately saw something that troubled them deeply. The Swiss player, in the moments before the foul, appeared to be offside. Appeared. That word matters. Because football, in the modern era, has tools specifically designed to remove the word appeared from these conversations. VAR exists precisely so that officials can review these situations with frame-by-frame precision and show the world in real time exactly what the technology found. The semi-automated offside system, one of the most sophisticated pieces of refereeing technology ever deployed at a World Cup, generates a graphic, a line, a clear, visual, undeniable representation of where every relevant player's body was positioned at the critical moment. It is supposed to eliminate doubt. It is supposed to replace speculation with certainty. It is supposed to be the proof. The proof never came. VAR reviewed the incident. The decision stood. Switzerland had their penalty. And the graphic that should have shown the world why the decision was correct, the line that FIFA's own technology was designed to produce, was simply absent, gone, missing, not delayed, not partially shown, not displayed in an alternative format, just not there. Think about that for a moment. Think about that for a moment. In one of the most high-profile games of the tournament's opening round, with hundreds of millions of viewers watching across every platform on the planet, FIFA deployed its cutting-edge technology to review a pivotal decision and then failed to show the single most important piece of evidence that would prove the decision was right. The one thing that could have ended the debate in seconds. The one image that would have made the controversy disappear before it had a chance to breathe. It was withheld. Whether intentionally or not, it was withheld, and the internet did what the internet always does. It noticed. Within minutes, pundits were speaking. Analysts were pulling up the footage frame by frame on their own screens. Commentators who have spent their careers covering this sport and who understand the technology involved were publicly, loudly, and specifically calling out FIFA for failing to provide the visual confirmation that should have been automatic. These were not fringe voices. These were not conspiracy theorists operating from the dark corners of social media. These were credentialed, respected, widely followed football voices telling their audiences that something did not add up. And here is where the story changes completely. Because in any other moment from any other organization, a technical failure might have been exactly what it sounds like. Systems malfunction. Technology fails. These things happen in live broadcasting environments under enormous pressure, and reasonable people understand that. A missing graphic during a review, explained promptly and transparently, should have been a minor footnote, a curiosity, nothing more. But this was not any other moment, and FIFA is not just any other organization right now. Pull back further and the picture grows darker. Before that penalty decision ignited social media, before the graphic failed to appear, before the pundits began raising their voices, the 2026 World Cup had already accumulated a collection of controversies that would have defined any normal tournament opening. Ticket prices that priced out millions of ordinary supporters, empty seats visible in stadiums during matches while FIFA's official attendance, figures told a different story. Travel restrictions that made it logistically impossible for fans from certain parts of the world to follow their national teams in person. Supporters who had spent thousands preparing for the trip of a lifetime, only to discover that the reality on the ground bore little resemblance to the experience they had been promised and sold. And then the story that cut even deeper. Officials, people with credentials, people with legitimate professional reasons to be present at the tournament being denied entry. The kind of operational chaos that should not be possible at an event this size, this well-resourced, this meticulously planned over years of preparation. Each of these incidents on its own might be explainable. Each one, isolated, might be absorbed by the goodwill that always surrounds a World Cup. Football fans are generous with their love for the game. They want the tournament to succeed. They arrive in good faith. But when you stack incident upon incident, when the opening days of the grandest sporting event on earth become defined not by the football, but by the failures of the organization running it, something shifts. The goodwill runs out. The goodwill runs out. And that is exactly the environment into which FIFA's explanation eventually arrived. Hours after the penalty controversy erupted. Hours after the debate had spread across every platform and every language. Hours after the narrative had already been written without them. FIFA released a statement. A technical malfunction, they said. The semi-automated offside system experienced a fault. The graphic could not be generated live. The decision, they insisted, was still correct. Now, let us be honest about something. That explanation might be entirely true. The technology might genuinely have failed. These systems are complex. They operate under extraordinary conditions, and the people who run them are not infallible. A malfunction during a live World Cup match is not inherently suspicious. It is not evidence of wrongdoing. It is not proof of anything other than the fact that sophisticated technology sometimes breaks at exactly the wrong moment. But here is the problem FIFA cannot explain its way out of. Nobody believed them. Not immediately. Not automatically. Not with the instinctive trust that should follow when the governing body of the world's most popular sport makes an official statement about a decision at its own tournament. The response was not relief. It was not acknowledgement. It was skepticism. It was the specific, pointed, informed skepticism of a football public that has been given too many reasons over too many years to question what FIFA tells them. Before we go deeper into exactly what that means and where this is all heading, if you are watching this and thinking that this is the kind of analysis you have been looking for, the kind that does not sanitize the story for the sake of access or diplomatic relationships, subscribe now and turn on notifications, because the next section of this video is going to reframe everything you think you understand about what is actually at stake here. FIFA's credibility did not collapse overnight. It has been eroding for years, investigation after investigation, prosecution after prosecution, names that became synonymous with corruption at the highest levels of sports governance. A Qatar 2022 World Cup surrounded by questions about how it was awarded, how it was built, and what it cost the workers who constructed it. A Russian World Cup that preceded it, under its own cloud, a pattern so consistent, so well documented, so thoroughly reported that it became the foundation of how millions of football supporters now understand the institution. And yet FIFA kept asking for trust. FIFA kept announcing reforms. FIFA kept presenting itself as a changed organization, a transparent organization, an accountable organization. The language evolved. The messaging became more sophisticated. The press releases used better words. The pattern continued. That is the central contradiction at the heart of this story. Not whether the Swiss player was offside. Not whether the penalty was correct. Not even whether the graphic failure was genuine or manufactured. The central contradiction is this. FIFA demands trust while systematically dismantling every reason to give it. They ask for the benefit of the doubt while creating an environment where the benefit of the doubt has become impossible to extend. And that is not the football public's failure. That is FIFA's failure. Let us sit with that. Let us sit with that. Think about what it means when a technical glitch can no longer be read as a technical glitch. Think about what it means when an honest mistake cannot be received as an honest mistake because the institution making the mistake has accumulated such a deficit of credibility that nothing it does or says can be evaluated in isolation anymore. Every incident becomes connected to every previous incident. Every explanation carries the shadow of every previous explanation that turned out to be incomplete or misleading or simply false. That is where FIFA is right now. That is exactly where FIFA is right now. At the beginning of its own tournament, hosting the sport's greatest celebration in the most expansive World Cup format ever attempted. Here is what makes this moment uniquely painful for the people who genuinely love this sport. The football has been extraordinary. The matches in the opening days of the 2026 tournament delivered drama, quality, and the kind of moments that remind you why this sport has captured the human imagination for over a century. The expanded format brought nations to the stage that had never stood there before. The energy in those stadiums, when fans were actually present and actually able to get in, was everything a World Cup should produce. Football is doing its job. The sport is delivering. It is FIFA that keeps getting in the way of its own tournament. It is FIFA that transforms each day's conversation from the brilliance on the pitch to the controversy in the boardroom or the operations center. It is FIFA that hands its critics the ammunition they need, sometimes with both hands, sometimes in broad daylight, sometimes in the middle of a VAR review watched by hundreds of millions of people. The missing offside line, that tiny absent piece of technology, that graphic that should have taken seconds to generate and display. It has become something much larger than a refereeing controversy. It has become a symbol, a visual representation of everything people feel when they think about FIFA's relationship with accountability and transparency. The evidence that should have been shown, that was promised by the technology, that would have settled the question, simply did not appear. That is the story, not the penalty, the absence of the proof. Because when you strip everything else away, when you remove the specific details of this specific incident at this specific tournament, what you are left with is a question about governance. A question about what it means to run an institution that the entire world has no choice but to rely on for the integrity of the sport they love. What does it mean when that institution can no longer make an explanation land, no matter how accurate it might be? What does it mean when the communication gap between FIFA and football's global audience has grown so wide that honest statements cannot cross it? It means the crisis is no longer about the incidents themselves. It means the crisis is structural. And structural crises do not resolve themselves through press releases. They do not dissolve because one tournament produces beautiful football. They require something far more difficult and far more painful than an official statement about a technical malfunction. They require accountability that is visible, reform that is measurable, and time that has not yet been earned. So here is the question this moment leaves us with, and it is a question that every person watching this tournament deserves to sit with, honestly. Was the missing offside graphic simply a technical failure? Was it an honest malfunction in a complex system operating under extraordinary pressure? One of those frustrating but fundamentally innocent moments where technology chooses the worst possible time to break down? Or has FIFA created an environment, through years of decisions and actions and failures of transparency, where that question can never again receive a simple, trusted answer? Has the governing body of football arrived at a place where even its legitimate explanations sound like cover stories, where even its genuine mistakes look like concealment, where even the benefit of the doubt is no longer a resource available to it? That is the real question. That is what this moment is actually about. The football will continue, the goals will be scored, the drama will unfold. The tournament will produce its heroes and its heartbreaks and its moments that will be replayed for decades. Football always delivers. But somewhere beneath all of it, in the gap between what FIFA promises and what football's global audience actually receives, a trust is broken. And the most dangerous thing about broken trust is not the moment it breaks. It is the silence afterward, when explanations fall into it and never come back out. Tell us what you think in the comments below. Was this a technical glitch? Or is this something much deeper? Does FIFA still deserve the benefit of the doubt? Or has that moment already passed? The conversation happening right now matters, and your voice is part of it. If this kind of unflinching analysis is what you come here for, subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay close, because we are not done pulling this thread. The line that was supposed to appear never did, and that absence says everything.